So that's the sphincters and the valves you want to cover. In the same time, I want to talk about what foodstuffs is called. So foodstuffs is actually the term that we use for the food that we take in. It's a general term. It's an unwieldy word, but it's actually the word that we use for this. I guess maybe I'll use a blue here. So we take in foodstuffs. Once it enters into our mouth, it is going to be called a bolus of food. Because it starts to change chemically. When it's in the mouth, we're masticating it, we're crushing it up in our teeth, we're secreting salivary amylase into it. It's starting to change its constituency, so we call it something different. We call it a bolus of food. Once the bolus of food makes its way through the esophagus and into the stomach, we have a new name for it, which is chyme. So foodstuffs in our stomach are called chyme, C-H-Y-M-E. It's also spelled C-H-I-M-E. And sometimes it's called chime. I don't know, I learned chyme. What can I do? So the chyme then is what it's called once it reaches the stomach. Again, it starts to change constituency because the stomach has different sets of enzymes and acids that starts to break down the food differently. So chyme in the stomach, all the way through the small intestines, it continues to be called chyme. Once it gets to the large intestine, it's basically close to a waste product. So we start to actually call it like waste or feces. So it's going to be feces down here in the rectum, but it starts to become kind of like a waste product as it moves through the colon, as it moves through the large intestines. So foodstuffs, when it's eaten, it's called a bolus in the mouth. Chyme through the stomach and small intestines. Somewhere in the large intestines, we start to call it waste. And then finally, feces in the rectum and anus. The tricky part about the large intestines is that as the foodstuffs is going through the large intestines, it's still being changed to a certain extent. You're still absorbing water from it. You're still using the bacteria in your colon to further digest it. And there's actually a lot of really exciting things happening inside of the colon, which we'll talk about in lecture. So it's not really a waste product, but that's kind of what we start to call it at that